Okay.
Hello. Welcome to Rust Meetup March 2021. Today we'll have Ivan presenting on diesel. So without further ado, let's start the presentation. So if you are, by the way, if you are interested in joining the meetup, you can go to you can come join our call on Google Meet. This is the Meet Google Meet code NZE and RJE DBT. Without further ado, Ivan, are you ready?
Okay, let's
You
start.
are ready.
So I'll be the
Right.
presenter for today. So since last time we have our meetup 1 year ago, which is before the COVID-19, it's like January.
为什么呢？
Oh, echo mute. 就像 mute. 你要 mute okay. Okay, since last time we have our last meetup during last January, we have 1.40 Rust, and now we have 1.49 release. So it's like more than a year already. We have quite a lot. We have like we have a lot of improvement in the const area. Like there's a const function and stuff, a lot of them. Why? Okay, and then today I will talk about diesel. Learn about diesel is that last time when I was working, right, I was when I was working, I was doing like GoRM, which is a GoLang library for ORM. I was working in this. I noticed that there's a lot of foot guns where you can easily fall into. So Rust have a library called Diesel, which is popular. It's an ORM. Although someone doesn't call it an ORM, right? We can consider it markets itself as an ORM and query builder. Yeah, but someone might argue that it's like more towards query builder that they could consider it. So I try to go on such that it has issues with joins, and if you do something out of normal, because it uses a lot of reflection magic, and it uses a lot of reflection magic for GoRM, so it have a lot of sometimes in some parts it doesn't work even though it compiles. But Diesel is different. Diesel is they call it a type safe extensible ORM, and today I will share my experience on using Diesel and how much type safe is that. So when we come into Diesel, right, we need to know that it is not, you can't think of it as the other ORM that you might have seen, because later I'll explain on that. So Diesel is fast. It's built for performance. Okay, built for performance as in they have a benchmark as, because there is like a alternative to Diesel includes SQL in Rust as well. So this one is Diesel is type safe, so that's why they can say preventing runtime errors, but it's type safe to a certain level. So I have experienced some foot guns for it, such that it doesn't have like in some parts, very specific parts, and it gets runtime error instead of compile time error. But there's like some limitation in type safe, some limitation in the type system, such that it didn't implement those parts. It can be done, but it wasn't there because it's something new for that part. So they haven't fully explored that yet. So SQLX is an alternative to Diesel, whereas SQLX takes a different approach, where you write pure SQL, and then the SQL will be checked during compile time. When you compile the stuff with SQLX, right, you can use their macro called query, and then they also have a function, but you can use the macro, and the macro will connect to the database, and then you check whether that query is correct or not. So it does it in another way, but DSL doesn't do it that way. DSL put all of those SQL information into the types itself. So that provides like built-in, the built DSL for dealing with types. So that's how they do it. So you need to know SQLX is an alternative, but it's very different. And some others may not prefer the both of these. They may want to write like Tokyo Postgres, which use the lower level directly. But yeah, diesel. So when you get started with diesel, we will see some examples here. This is like roughly what diesel looks like. So these are the generator code, and then they won't have a relationship. And these are like roughly how diesel looks like. And they also uses derive to derive like the stuff to be queried. And for inserting data, usually they have in diesel, right? They have a pattern where you create a struct for like different items that you are doing. For example, because usually you'll see people like if you have a struct for user, people have a struct for new user. User is for creating a new like listing users where the users have ID. And if you notice if you use user, right, it will be derived queryable. And then if you use like a new user, it will be derived insertable. The difference is that new user usually don't include the ID. You only include what you want to insert, and the other values being like auto-generated or default values. So you may need some extra boilerplates where for different queries with a different amount of fields, you may need to use a different struct for that. This also helps to prevent some issues, like let's say it doesn't do like default values or special case in some stuff. So all the fields have to be there and must be used. And later I'll talk about this, how they work. It's not, you don't think of them as models. You think of them as like queries to be stuff to be queried, because it doesn't work like a model in other languages. It can't be considered model. It can be considered something like a query. So for updating data is a bit similar. So this is roughly how it looks like. Then we can have the get started to diesel. So this
Ivan? Oops, looks like Ivan is having some connection problem. Wait, come back. Why? Let me check. Ivan, are you there? Ivan? He's gone. Let me check if Ivan is still. Ivan is not responding to my Telegram messages. Call him to see what's happening over his side. Got hit by foot gun. Right. Let me give him a call. Oh, he's having some connection problem. So he should be back in a minute. Meanwhile, if you are interested in joining the meeting, you can come by visiting this link, meet.google.com/nze-nrje-dbt. Let's see if Ivan is coming back. Ivan. Ivan is gone. Ivan needs to reboot his network. Everyone is asking where Ivan is. Ivan is restarting his network, so he should be back in about a minute or two. So meanwhile, if you're interested in participating in the call, you can join us by visiting this link. We might need to get Ivan to start over, considering the slides are not updated properly on YouTube. And Ivan is taking forever to restart his network. I'm very sorry about that. All right, Ivan just restarted.
Hello.
All right, can you?
I have camera.
No.
Oh,
Can you restart the top, because YouTube was having problem refreshing the slides.
refreshing one slide.
Your slide were not shown in the video. And then Ivan is gone again. Why are you doing this to me, Ivan? Ivan, please come back.
Hello?
Okay,
Can
Ivan
you
is
hear me?
back. All right,
Can you hear me?
can you start over?
Do I have sound?
Yes.
Okay. Start over.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Start from everything from diesel.
Second slide, I think, after the 1.49 Rust.
There's no slides. I didn't show anything.
Yeah.
There's no slide.
The last slide is about the Rust 1.40. And then you keep on talking. And then keep on talking, and then the slide doesn't change.
And then suddenly I gone. Okay, now can see. Can see already, screen. Okay, so I talk a lot, but never mind. Let me start again. So diesel. I talk. Just now did I say talk about the diesel already? Hello.
Yeah, but to be safe, I guess you should start.
Yes, you talk about diesel.
Okay, diesel is a type safe ORM. Although some people don't consider it as a ORM because
Talk about
consider
cell,
it's a query builder. In Rust is a popular one, most popular one. The alternative includes SQLC, not SQLX, which does thing quite differently compared to diesel. What it does is it allows you to SQLX have both async support. Diesel doesn't have, and I can explain the reason next time. And so it supports SQLX supports like a few more drivers other than Diesel only supports Postgres, MySQL, and SQLite, but SQLX support a few more drivers. Some more SQLX support like the pure Rust driver. Unlike Diesel doesn't support the pure Rust driver. Yet no one want to do that. But the reason why Diesel didn't support the pure Rust driver is that because the pure Rust drivers for like the MySQL cannot be compared to the C driver. It's like a lot slower compared to the C bindings. So the Diesel still use the C bindings, the original C bindings. And why do we want to use Diesel? Like one of the things is because it is type safe. It prevents runtime error. This is safe to a certain level, where like sometimes new features I faced a certain scenario where there's error on runtime instead of compile time. But most of the stuff is like usually when it compiles, it will work in Diesel. But sometimes the compile error for Diesel is quite hard to understand because because Diesel uses a lot of different type magic, you can call it. So, and then it's also built for performance. It's quite fast. And of course, I think raw SQL should be faster, but Diesel is quite fast and productive. I don't know how good is that. So Diesel have like a built-in DSL where you can have multiple DSL where you can use the domain-specific language to do the querying. You can see like these are all like Diesel code, and it will generate it's like a query builder or sort. But it's the query is written in type safe Rust, so you write Rust code and then it
Sorry, Ivan. Can you enlarge the screen for a bit? Because it's too small to see on the screen.
Like this? this is like you can do something like this, and then it will do like this. So these are generated by diesel. You don't. This is like diesel schema is generated, and they generate DSL for you. And then what it does is it generates this. So these are like diesel code. These are more complex one. Of course, later I'll show a even more complex one which doesn't even work. I mean, I'm stuck, so I need to do RustSQL for that. But diesel already supports quite a lot of different stuff. Like diesel utilizes the derive for code gen. There's a queryable. Derive queryable is to query. You'll notice that there's a queryable and there's an insertable. In diesel, these are different. You can't think of them as models. It doesn't work the way similar to other database where we have something called model. Diesel, no. These are, you can think of it as what is being queried in the SQL. So these are the select ID, version ID, downloads, counted, date, except it's not by name. It is this one you can't think of it as this because this one works using the order. So it's a bit different such that the queryable, it looks at the ID, the I32, this, but it doesn't look at this. Why? Because what if you want to use like SQL, like as aggregation, like count, or you want to do something like average. So that's why they don't look at this. And then this without diesel. And for inserting, we have insertable. Usually we don't do the same. We don't use the same. Okay, we don't use the same struct as I wouldn't say less boilerplate because it's quite still some boilerplate because for different queries you need to do different struct, and this one we have to like you see that if you have user struct, usually you also have a new user struct. New user struct usually you will have like derived insertable, and user struct will have derived queryable. Because why? Because when inserting you don't know the ID, so you don't put ID in, and this you need to fill in all the fields here, so it's not optional. So for all the fields you need to put in something. So that's why this also, although it's like a bit more boilerplate, but it can make sure things don't go wrong. Like you don't insert with ID, right? So that's why ID is not there when it's inserting, and when querying, ID is there because you want to get the ID. So that's why you can think of it as like this. So you can think of like name as the first one and the hair color as the second one. Except this, I think insertable also is ordered by the type, and there's also queryable by name, derive. If you want to look into if you want to use raw SQL, and these are like batches, and this is quite ergonomic in some cases because it can like you can use different types. For example, if you want to use load, right, you can talk, the diesel documentation is quite good. I mean, on the normal ones, it's quite good because it includes a lot of stuff. The guide is not very comprehensive, but the normal documentation is still quite good already. They have a lot of things documented and a lot of stuff have the examples. You can use the same load function to return. You return a single field also can. You want to return like a tuple also can, and you want to return a struct also can. That's why this struct works sort of like a tuple. This is how you need to think of the queryable. You can't think of it as a model. And when you get started with diesel, am I too fast, or do you all have any question up till now about the diesel?
So Faris Sofian asked whether this is similar to DTO.
DTO? What's DTO?
Not sure.
What's DTO?
Well, I guess we should just move on. Then we
never
shall
mind,
collect
no,
all the questions at the end.
I
We
don't know
can
what's
answer all in one shot.
Okay, never mind. When you get started with Diesel, right? Diesel uses like a feature gate. Say if you want to use Postgres, you just specify the Postgres in this feature. And you want to support, if you want to use SQLite, you just use SQLite here. And MySQL as well, you put MySQL here. So this is usually how you use Diesel. It also comes with a CLI. The CLI, you can do migration, and you can do, yeah, mainly I use it for migration, and you can do code generation. Oh, too big. Yeah, you can do migration and code generation. Basically, that's what it does. And you can print schema like this. Okay, this is this is what the Diesel code generation. So what it does is in Diesel, right? You write you first, how it works in Diesel is like when you want to do migration, you need to write raw SQL to do migration. So in SQL, first you do the Diesel setup, then you create a migration, and in the migration you need to write raw SQL. You need to write something like this. So unlike other language, Diesel doesn't provide like auto migrate, as in like, because Diesel doesn't have the concept, Diesel doesn't have like models, and it will automatically create the database models for you. So what you need to do is you need to create the structures yourself. Like you need to write the raw queries yourself to make sure the types is correct and others is correct. After you write this, so you just you can run the migration. Diesel will run the migration, and then like it's already run. You can redo. Yeah, so this will run the migration, and then you can do like and then what you can do is generate. Let's generate. Okay, never mind. Don't follow this. Of course, you can, if you are interested, you can read the guide, getting started guide. It's quite simple, and so what it does is usually you print a schema, and then you have you can see in my schema is generated. This isn't the normal practice in Rust where you generate Rust code. Usually you just write a macro yourself, but Diesel does it this way, where they generate this. These are the table is like a Diesel DSL. You don't usually write this yourself. So what it does is these are all generated by Diesel. Generated by Diesel as well. Oh no, yeah, it's generated by Diesel. And does is
Just a
it will
request. Can
generate.
you, Ivan, can you
Huh?
enlarge the text size a bit, because it's
Which one?
very
This
hard
one?
to read from the screen.
This one? Okay.
Just a fair bit bigger.
Oh, this one?
Yep.
Okay. So so maybe you can look into what is the generator structures in Diesel. This is the local documentation. Okay. Hello. Okay, this is the why like this. Okay, so these are the generator structures that I have. No schema. So it will generate some DSL like this. So you can use it like you can use it like this, like in the one showed. So I have written like a few series of this. I have some experiments. So maybe I'll share a bit on the experimentation. So when I get into diesel, the hard thing is like the learning the different. You need to, the few things you need to know at first is like you need to understand how this
your
DSL
font size.
works.
Ivan, your font size.
Okay. Okay. So I have a, just now the example that I showed you have a structure like this. And then I want to do a join. So I have to do some join like this. So these will have like, by default, you can don't do select. And then you can have like explicit select or implicit select, and you can do something like this. And then it will generate some queries like this. Okay, so long. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to like query the table. I want to find based on the users that have name John. Then I want to select the related comments or posts and the users. I want to select the comments body, what this user commented, and what post this user commented, and on the username, because yeah, it's John. So what you can see here is this is the generated DSL user's name, as in like here. Hello schema users. So these are the generated one. And then at first you might be confused here because here if you import star here, hello schema users DSL star, if you import here, then it'll be a bit confusing such that because you have this is re-exported as users. So your user table is now called like for example, users table is now called users. It's a bit confusing at first, such that if you have multiple tables, then you wouldn't want to do this, because the examples in this documentation shows both. One way is to use like import hello schema users and then use users table. And the other
Ivan, are you there? Ivan, I can't hear you from here. Ivan is gone again. Ivan. I guess Ivan is still having his network problem. We shall wait for him to come back. Meanwhile, if you are interested in joining the call, the link is here. Let's wait for about 2 minutes for him to come back. I probably should start a countdown timer somewhere. Ivan, you should start paying your bandwidth bills, your broadband bills. Ivan, where are you?
Hello. Okay, maybe I don't turn on video. I just skip. I'm lazy to get my phone back for video. I'm okay already, right? I have sound.
Yep. You
Okay, I
have
don't turn on
sound.
video this time. Lazy.
All right.
So present now. I think just now I talked until I believe here. So this is like a DSL to do inner join. So they have DSL for a lot of things. Like you can do inner join and you can even do count. Recently I do count. And then there's also function to do count. So you can do like select count dot first. So they have support for something like this. Hello? Okay.
Yes.
And you can even do like so this is like update from. This is like I'm trying to do like an update from experimentation. And then next I wanted to try like multiple join experiment. Oh no, wrong. And then I want to do like a update from. So I want to update from like, let's say update post set something, where something. This is a simple, in diesel they considered this as a simple version. Okay. And then see a sound. Hello?
Yes. Why are you showing the
Okay,
YouTube?
so they consider this as a simple example. You can see the binds here. Like in this one is just now the debug query that you will see. So what you do here is in the user table, you select the user ID and then you do a filter. And then you can filter it correctly, like using, and then this is doing like a subquery already, this. Yeah, equal to any subquery. So what it does is this part, right, is like post user ID equal to any. Is post user ID, and then equal to any is within this part. This is a subquery. So this can also do subquery. And then it works. And here I noticed that what I learned is the DSL part is a bit confusing at first. But after you get to know the docs, like you get to know, or you need to differentiate between users DSL and like the hello schema users and hello schema users DSL, that part. So at first you might be a bit confused on that, but there's not an issue there. So the error will be a bit confusing there at first. But once you get to know it, you know that you use this when you are dealing with multiple tables. And you use this when you use a hello schema. You use this when you're dealing with like a single table. So online. And then I also did other experiments, like join not exist. Wrong. Am I wrong? So what I want to do here is I want to do like, I want to find in one table, and I want to find that, so there's two tables. I want to find in one table that doesn't exist find stuff from two tables and how to reword this. Okay, so I have like posts and then I have comments. So I want to find all the comments that doesn't have any posts. No, all the posts that doesn't have any comments. So what it does is select from the post, and then we would find that all those that doesn't have you'll find all those that doesn't have any ID. So you see that it generates the generated query is still okay. The post table, you can do a left join here. This will do left join correctly, but this doesn't support the composite join. Composite join is like if you don't know composite join is like something like this. Composite join is like select from like you have users and then comments. This is like composite join, but this doesn't support this yet. They also say it's for performance reason. So this only support left join and inner join, like left join, inner join, but there's no right join. I think maybe it's not required, so they didn't support right join. And then yeah, so basically you do something like this. Post tables. So you can do like the table. You can. This is the original DSL where I use it's like use schema post, and then you just use this post table, and then you can do post title. You can do post ID, and then like within the DSL, right? Because it implements some traits. So in DSL, you need to learn how to rate the traits, like comments. This is comments, right? And then it will have all the columns, because you can see that it will re-exports all the columns, right? So you can use all these columns directly, ID. So you need to rate some of the traits is useful here. Like for example, you can see that there's quite a lot of traits being implemented. For example, I want to say is now. Where can I find? Yeah, you can see expression methods is now. So you see, based on the document, you can just search for something like this. And then this is for the field. And then you can search for is now. And this have like all the like equal, rather than doing like string, rather than doing string equal, you see like equal using the function methods on expression methods. So you can call it like name equal NE, something like this. And it also support like excluded, like even with I tried doing upsert, it also support upsert, and there's even like excluded thing here. So this is like how we want to do something like this. And then this is something harder already. I tried doing upsert. So what I want to do is like so up till this point, when I get into upsert, so I learned like this. So it's a lot easier compared to the past where I had to figure out a lot of stuff. So right now, this time it is a lot easier to do stuff already. Especially when it follows the default values. So for inserting, right? So for inserting, usually you do like insert into. So usually you do this for inserting, insert into. But for select, right, you don't do like select from. No, you don't. Usually you don't do this. there are some functions that you don't use it in DSO, such that in some cases you may need to use it. So this like insert into, you can see like you can insert into the table, but I don't want to just insert into. Oh, so okay, so here is also one thing where I like is in values, right? You can see these values. You can use tuples. You can use like name equals to this, which means that you are only inserting name. So if users tables only contain name, you can do like this: name equal to Sean. This is the original developer of Diesel, one of the main developer there. Or you can also use tuples, where you can do like a new user, ID equals to 1. Of course, this is not like the normal equal you see. This is not the in the where clause, not the tuple, not the ID equals to in the where, but this is the ID means 1 and name is John. And then values. And you can also use you can even use a vector, you know. If you want to insert like batch users, vec, and then you can insert it the same way. And you just use the same thing. And that's quite interesting, I believe. And then you can also insert with structures, but the structures need to derive insertable, and you need to have code table name. But sometimes if you miss something like this, then error will be quite confusing at first. Because the error sometimes doesn't point to the correct place if you miss this. And yeah, this is roughly how it's done. Okay, and one thing to note is Diesel, because Diesel encodes stuff in the type, right? It even have like different traits for different backends. For example, returning. They even have a trait called support returning clause, which means that the backend supports returning. Like for example, SQLite doesn't support returning, right? Returning is something like when you query, right, you can get back like when you insert, you can get back the original data. Like you can get back original ID, what you inserted, and you can get back the original fields that you insert. For example, when you do like execute, when you want to insert, I think you do execute, right? Now in examples, yeah, you do execute. Yeah, so you do execute, and I think some of these have. Yeah, like some of this part, right? Because SQLite doesn't support returning, so you can't do a return. Like you can't get the inserted row in this case for SQLite. That's what I remember. That's why there's no implementers for this. That's why there's no implementers. But for like something like the Postgres supports this. So like if you use different backends, right, some of the features might not be there. So some of the parts you can't use the same Rust code for everything, because they even support like even for different features, they even implement it in using types. So there's something quite mind-blowing to me when I first saw they even have other supports, like support default keyword, support on conflict. Yeah, this support on conflict. So right now, on conflict is only implemented for MySQL, no, Postgres and SQLite. Although MySQL have it last time, but they haven't implemented it yet. So it means that they don't have this for MySQL until someone implements it. So this is the upsert. So you can do on conflict, and then you can do update. But I find that there's a foot gun here. What Chi Liang want to hear? Is it still there? Okay, so because upsert is new, so on conflict, what you can do is you can put anything here. you can put like even because ID is absurd, right? On conflict supposed to be something that is either a primary key or is a unique value. But because right now they don't have metadata information on the type, whether that type is a primary key or a unique value. So basically they accept all the columns here, and I tried putting name here, and then you get a runtime error for this. Like this project is this absurd. For these experimentations, right? For this experimentation, I have like 2 binaries created because I have a bin that call another binary called init to initialize the data. So I want to test insertion. So this is like how I insert the data into that. So there's I just create like vectors and then just insert, execute wrap and insert, and then just insert another, and then just insert again. So this is how I test it, and then I have another main to try out the queries that I want to do experimentation on. Of course, I just keep printing out the queries every time I run it. Excuse me. So no such tables. So I didn't run migration. I run the init and I run the hello. So you can see I am inserting this into, so this is absurd. So if the ID is already there, like because I'm inserting the ID2, right? Because the ID2 is already there, so it will change the value to John. So I'm selecting, just like, so roughly like this. And if I change this to, like I say name, it will run, but then you get a runtime error instead of compile time error, like I mentioned before. But I think it only happens for this part because I didn't get to see. Okay, you can say it's food gun, but I don't think this food gun is so serious. Okay, but never mind. So you see that you get runtime error, whether they are compile time error. So you get inserts because but I think support for this to move this runtime error to compile time error is not that hard. Don't know. I didn't try. Maybe I'll try doing it because the diesel auto is not doing that. So this is the Fuka that I mentioned. And then, okay, then we have another, okay, last project that I work on. Okay, so this last project, I start facing some issues. What I wanted to do, I want to do group by. Okay, group by is new in diesel. So I need to use nightly for that. Same as the last project, I also need to use nightly for that. Nightly diesel. Because the last release is 1.4 release, which doesn't have a group by and other stuff. So they are still open for feedback right now. So I'm trying to do is, I wanted to do a group by and count. So I want to find that based on this user for, based on the user for this, for group by the user and post, how many, based on, okay. Let me think. Okay, based on this tree, right? So based on comments, no, group, so I'm grouping by this, group by post ID and user ID. So for each post and user, how many comments are there for that post and user based on the post and user. So like for example, in one post, a user may have commented multiple times. So I want to count in total how many is that. So at first I even tried something like this, which is not a very not a valid SQL, but this doesn't compile, so that's expected. Then I want to do something like so I want to try doing this in diesel, but it didn't work. So it's something like this. So I want to do something like this in comments table. I want to group by this and select, and it didn't work. And it didn't compile because they say it, because they say this doesn't support like this, so you see like a bunch of type errors. There's a lot because this is not supported. Why? Because I want to I get the count in the subquery already, but because this doesn't yet support aliasing, so I mean aliasing as in count like this, count ID as like count. Because this doesn't support this yet. There's an active PR on that, but nobody continue. The original author wrote the work in progress PR, but it didn't finish. So I want to do the same, but I don't know how to reference. I don't know how to use this to reference this. So basically, this is like something that the level of type supports. It's quite interesting already, because there's a lot that based on this aggregation, right? This will even take into account like what you group by and what you select. Say if you group by something, but you didn't select that, this will give an error. So that's already quite impressive, I believe. Like if you group by this, but you didn't select this, then you get an error. I mean, you get an error here because the types is incorrect. Like the type here is incorrect. But never mind. I'll continue. But this is something like up to the limits of roughly what diesel DSL currently supports. And worst case, I went and tried out raw SQL. So I need to write. So I need to write my own struct, like comment count. So this is query by name. What I need to do is I need to specify the types myself. And it's fine. And oh, you all know it's Kakon. Okay, never mind. If this is like and if the type is correct, is wrong, right? I also get an error like this. And this is very weird, right? I see this error, but I don't understand why I get this error. But I asked in a Gitter channel, and they mentioned that because big INT is not for this, so I need to use count I64. But yeah, this part, right? If I didn't the previous part, if I didn't do the second query, it works. But you can only get the user ID and post ID. But because I don't want to do another query again, I want to do like a subquery thing, so I can't do that. So what does I need? I need to write raw SQL, and then I write this, and then this will be up to you whether you write this correct or not. Whether you write this correct or not, you can do a bind. You need to do, if you want to bind stuff in, you need to do like a bind here, bind using the type inside here, like bind. Yeah, something like this. So this is another layer of diesel, where you don't want like write full raw SQL, but you want to write like somewhere halfway in between, so you can do something like this. So it's like you have the choice to use the full query, the full DSL that diesel provides, that just I showed a lot, or you can use this half big DSL, or you can use the raw query. But sometimes I find using raw query very good enough. For cases like this, I'll maybe fall back to raw queries. And this also provide, like, say if you want to use some special functions in Postgres, right? You can still use it I don't know what is that called, but I think you can even provide a macro to generate SQL function. Say the function is not in diesel, not supported in diesel, but you can just write like this, and then it can generate the it can generate the function for you. In like, let's say Postgres have a certain special function, so you can use those functions. Does this show an example? Yeah, so roughly this they even provide the level to something like this. So a lot of things are covered. So I've discussed a lot of things I covered is like they have a lot of DSL supported. You can see that there's even relationship association, but there's also a bunch of macros here. And yeah, this is like what I learned from Diesel is like they do put stuff in type. Like if you want to look at their group by, you see that they even have like a value grouping where a lot of these are encoded in type and aggregate, and then this. Oh, lot. So these are all done by Diesel to make it type safe. So they put in a lot of effort for this and the documentation as well. Yeah, so these are very, very interesting and I find it quite good. Up till now, it's quite good from what I see. As in they really make it type safe to prevent any foot guns. Okay, I talk about this. Is there any question? Maybe I can talk about later. I can talk about bonus. A bonus section. And any questions? Any questions?
Any questions to be asked to our speaker?
Okay, I can on back my video now. I need to open my phone first. Questions.
If no questions,
Okay.
it's going to crash.
Yeah. So these are these. So how what do you all think? How is it? See, okay. Okay. So no question. Maybe I'll share about a bit of experiment I've done lately. What I was trying to do. Okay. This is what stock. Okay, stock. So what there's like a stock. There's like a stock data, and then I want to get the price. And this is what I did. So what it involves is I have like it will download the data. So this uses blocking request. Usually I will just to avoid trouble, I will just use the blocking API of request. And I happen to need gzip, so I also need to add gzip because if I didn't add this, I will see scrambled data. And I use norm for parsing. Because I was doing it with my father. My father is doing it on pandas, and then I say I don't want to use pandas. I want to write in Rust. So I was using Rust directly. And I finished it first, and then he haven't. So I was writing a custom parser using nom. And maybe I'll share a bit on what I don't like about nom. So you see this, right? In nom, you see a bunch of this. Like you see a bunch of this. I don't like this. Why we need this is I just added a lifetime in here. Yeah, I just added. Originally, I put this as string, and then I just added this, and then I need to add all this lifetime. No, how many of these? Need to add all these. If without the lifetime, you can just write it like this. You can write it like this. Yeah, a lot easier, right? A lot. Yeah, can you write it like this without the lifetime? A lot easier. But then, because if this is like str, right? Because this is like static str, and then when I change it to string, which became like str, and then it suddenly became so unergonomic where everything I need to add all this bunch of stuff, and then I also need to add all to other functions. But otherwise, it will be very nice to use. I would say nom, because but I've spent some time troubleshooting the tag. I don't even know which tag it have errors. The errors is a bit hard to understand. So what this does, don't even know what it does now. So it uses PL3. So I do the parsing, and in nom, maybe I'll talk a bit about nom. Nom cargo dot. Wait, I need to compile again. So nom, you need to know, like you can write nom is a parser combinator for Rust, where you can write some functions, merge the functions together, and then do the parsing. But I just find only this part not ergonomic, but other part is quite nice to write, where I just write one part and then I just copy paste everything else, just copy paste. Although I can write function for it, I didn't. Lazy to write function for that, so I just copy paste everything, and all the parsing similar or just pass. Yeah, and then I pass all the data, and then I even do a Python. I tried writing some Python here, which I use inline Python for that. Yeah, so you see that you can inline Python. Maybe I should run it. Not to Excel, print. So these are like using nom. Don't have quite a lot of functions. So a lot. You have like to branching, to combinator, you can choose multiple functions. Okay, I won't talk about nom so much here. Yeah, so it works. And it's not hard. The only part I find it quite easy, in fact, except this part, because the chrono, what is that called? Chrono, right, doesn't work with chrono doesn't integrate with PyO3. PyO3 is a Python library for, no, it's a Python integration for Rust or FFI or something like that, but it's more than FFI because you can write like a Python class in Rust. So what it does is I just lazy to change this is the chrono date type. because Chrono doesn't have integration with PyO3 yet. I'm writing a PR for that, but they don't have integration yet. So I just convert it to string, which is Python date, and then that's why it came out like this. Yeah, temporary. I just put it as date. So this is run in Python. Pandas. This part is run in Python, but this is compiled to bytecode. The only part I find troublesome is because you can put this as a Rust variable. Stock records is a Rust variable, and this will be converted into the Python code. And then you have a Python object for this. Because there isn't a derive for this automatically because they don't know what you want to derive, what Python object you want to derive. So that's why they have this. And then all this to PyObject, then it works. And you can even convert the Python object to Rust using the from PyObject, but they have a derive for that. So this is roughly how it looks like using Python. So it's quite straightforward to do this. So let's say if in Rust you are missing something, then if you are missing something, you are lazy, then you can just convert to Python and then make the object in Python and then just run it here. There's also inline JavaScript. I think there's inline JavaScript as well, but I haven't tried that. But I tried this so far. It's working fine. How is it? Hello? Still good? Any questions?
No, should be fine.
No?
No. I guess in this case, that's all for today lah. So if you guys want to join the call, you can join through the link show here, and we will end the stream now. And see you guys soon in the next meetup. Bye bye.